Good morning, Big Brother fans. Today is Friday, August 2nd, day 18 in the Big Brother house. We're going to have maybe two car casts today, one this morning and one this afternoon, with an update on nominations and stuff in the afternoon. We had a live eviction last night. Lisa went home. She was blindsided. There's a lot of heat out there, and I'm going to imagine some of you possibly listening to this are really mad about Angela and feel that she should be out of the house. And all I can say to those of you that are just angry that Angela is such a horrible person, please understand, if you're only watching the TV show, you are not seeing the full picture. And they didn't paint a very negative picture of Lisa, and I'm not going to say Lisa's a mean person, but remember, I've talked about it. Lisa's a very annoying character in the house. She was annoying the rest of the house guests, just being extra, just doing things. One of the complaints was she cooked things that people didn't necessarily want, and she didn't seem to care that people didn't want them. She cooked them anyways. That kind of stuff. She just kind of imposed her will upon other people. And while Angela was shown, with her stuff that she did with Matt early on, her first week was definitely a train wreck. She was trying to mend her ways on that. She's never going to be, she's never going to last, she's not going to win the game, okay? Understand that. However, she's not a horribly mean person. She wasn't talking with Lisa for the last week, and they never showed Lisa telling Angela off and basically saying, I can't associate with you. They didn't show that little conversation. There's lots of reasons that Lisa was going, and the fact that they selectively edited things is to Angela's detriment. So that's all I can say is that, and lastly, it's a game. You vote out the people that you think might win if you want to win, right? If you want to win, you get rid of the other people that you think might win. And Lisa had a better shot of winning than Angela. She was a bigger threat. That's the truth. Julie was not wrong when she said they voted you out because you're too good. What Julie didn't say is that you're better than Angela, not that you're better than most of the other house guests, but she was considered better than Angela, and that was the reason to get rid of her. So, sorry, Angela, not a horrible person. She brings a lot to the show. I'm more than willing to have her stay around because she keeps things stirred up a little bit, and we don't want a boring household. If you're only in it for the TV show, okay, sure. She brings drama that you may not enjoy. But remember, CBS is also giving you that drama. They will find someone else to peg drama on once Angela is out, and that person will then annoy you. It's just a matter of who they pick. You don't be a sucker for the TV edit. Understand, you are being force-fed certain aspects, and that's why you listen to me talk and you listen to other people or you read other things, is to have a fuller view of what's going on. All right, I'll shut up now. So, Lisa got voted out. Kenny did know about the vote, just to be clear. I wasn't sure until afterwards, but afterwards, after the feeds came back, which they did come back fairly quickly after the show ended, Kenny was explaining to people that he knew that Angela was going to stay, that Lisa was going, but he in his good conscience couldn't vote for Lisa to get evicted because he had problems with Angela. But he still got a grudge because Angela was responsible for Matt going, right? That's really what's going on there with Kenny. And Kenny still is ready to leave. So, whatever. I'm sorry. It's like, we've still got to probably, this week probably won't be, it's going to be tougher than the last 2 weeks, but in the end, I would expect that either Kenny or Angela is going to go home this week. That's what I expect. Now, there are two opportunities for them to save themselves, but let's be clear. I haven't even told you who one had a household yet, but understand, just going into it without even knowing, assuming that neither Kenny nor Angela, one, had a household, You would expect both of them to be nominated again because they are the easy nominees. And so they're going to get nominated, and then the third person is the one that's at risk, possibly fourth. Let's forget about McKenzie's power for right now with the veto, and let's forget about Quinn's power. But let's pretend it's a quote as normal week as it can be, like the first 2 weeks have been. But you got 3 nominees, and you've got 2 opportunities to save themselves. So you got your power veto, and then you've got your AI. So it is possible that Angela could win the power veto, Kenny could win the AI, and then all bets are off on who's going to go home, right? That's where the pawns become a problem for the pawns. But in the end, it's fairly likely that either Kenny or Angela will go home next Thursday. Okay? Let's leave it at that. And so let's not get too worked up about this things as they were. All right, so the feeds came back, like I said, then they went back down, and I went to bed. And they came back on, I want to say at about 1:30 or 2 in the morning Eastern time. I was asleep, or at least I was in bed. And turns out Cedric is the new head of household, which is interesting because Cedric has not been... he's been active, he's been involved, he's been in alliances and stuff, but not as strong as some of the other house guests. And so it's an interesting head of household for him. It shifts the power a little bit in that, it's going to be interesting to see. He's definitely, he's definitely putting up Angela and Kenny. That's a given. They are now slotted into the easy to nominate, and we will continue to nominate until you either win head of household or are no longer in the house. That's really the truth. I think either one of them would have nominated the other as well. So, Kenny and Angela, nominees. By the way, let's talk about how they're the 2 oldest people in the house, and yeah, this is why, even though the house is skewed older, the 2 oldest of the older house guests are still the de facto nominees. So, yeah, there is that. As I think about why I would never be on Big Brother, because I would fall into that category. So, who is going to be the third nominee for Cedric tomorrow? Oh, let's stand back for that for 1 second. So the other thing is that apparently Cedric announced that Big Brother is giving them a break from have-nots. It's the 3rd week, so they have a break from have-nots. Go figure. What do you want? I mean, they didn't even talk about it this last week, so why not give a break from the have-nots, right? Yeah. So there's that. All right. So back to post feeds returning. Cedric's head of household. And there is one of your awkward breaks because I just had to pause it for a coughing fit. All right. So sorry for it. This seems disjointed. So Cedric, nominee talk. Post feeds returning. Angela and Kenny being the given. So now the question is, who's the third nominee? Some of the stuff that has gone on overnight would be Mackenzie decided to tell Cedric about her power. She didn't explain it fully. And she kind of edited it sounds like, to where she... I guess she didn't mention that America gets to select the renom, which might affect Cedric's, his thought about whether he should put up Mackenzie or not. And she talks about the 4th week that she could. I don't know. She didn't explain it fully, I guess is the way to say it. And so she edited it in such a way that the question is from Dingo. Actually, I saw her tweet this morning. Dingo was questioning: is that using production as a strategy by explaining your power inaccurately? And the way Mackenzie explained it, it was less powerful, right? And so she didn't quite give it the same amount of power as it could have, but she also didn't mention the America selecting the renom, and that is the part that might make Cedric more willing to use it because Cedric wouldn't be responsible for naming a renom. So I guess that's part of the reason that Dingo was not happy that she didn't quite describe it. I saw it as, well, she made it sound less powerful because she didn't want Cedric to think she didn't want Cedric to give Cedric a reason to use it, right? I get it. I don't know. It's a fuzzy line. If she said she could do more with it as a way to intimidate Cedric not to use it, that would be wrong in my opinion. But she gave herself less power. And again, the problem with this is that it's possible, and I'm saying that Mackenzie forgot how her power worked exactly, and so she's not telling it accurately, because there have been times in the past where people have been told they had a power and they've described it wrong to other people, and no one has said, oh, they're describing that wrong, they need to go get a clarification from the diary room, they need to explain it properly to other people, word for word exactly right, because at those times it didn't affect whether someone forced them to use the power, right? It was just more of a sharing of information. There have also been times where someone said, I have a power, and it's like, no, you don't. You can't tell people you have a power when you don't. So it's interesting because, again, there have been times where people have inaccurately described their powers, and they've been allowed to because they just didn't hear it well, and it didn't. In the end, it didn't make a huge difference or a big difference in the use of the power or when the power got used, kind of thing. It was just an inaccurate retelling. This may not be an inaccurate retelling. This may be an edited retelling, and the question is that allowed? And I'm like, well, as long as it isn't an inaccurate retelling that gives you more power. If you reduce the power of your power, then hey, why not? I guess it's the same thing as Mackenzie saying I don't have a power. Or I have a power, but it's less than what I don't know. I don't have an issue with it. And in the end, Cedric talked to Tucker, and Tucker said, she didn't tell you how the power works exactly. And so Tucker apparently clarified it with Cedric anyway. So that's that, right? The other thing is... another thing is that Cedric and Kenny had a conversation where they both revealed their secret backstories. That Cedric was in the Marines, and that Kenny is a former DEA agent or whatever. So I don't know what purpose that serves. I mean, Cedric is still going to nominate Kenny, so it is what it is. So that's where things kind of rest at the moment. Oh, the HoH competition, from what little bits and pieces that people are picking up, it sounds like it was physical. I'm thinking it was a head-to-head competition where they were all competing at the same time, side by side. Some people think it was a balance beam was involved, or maybe the seesaw balance. I've seen multiple different things. We haven't heard exact details. And frankly, it's not that important, the exact details of it. But it was a physical competition that involved, that would have been difficult for some of them to compete, which is one of the things that people have been wanting to eliminate to a certain extent more, that they want to make the competitions more equitable, more fair for everybody. And in this case, this would have definitely favored the more physically fit people. So we'll see. We'll see it on Sunday. We'll see what it was. Also, last night's AI competition. Let's talk about that for a half a second. So it was a 3D puzzle, that involved shapes and putting things in a certain order. And if you want to talk about equitable competitions, puzzles, modeling, like 3D image modeling, this is going back a long time. I can remember when I was much younger hearing that, on average, men are better at seeing things in 3D in their brain, like 3D modeling, than women. Women are better at certain things than men are. Men are better at, just the gender-wise. on average, not obviously there are exceptions. But I would tend to agree, at least in conversation with my wife, there are some things that I can visualize that I feel like I have to explain to her differently, whereas there are things that she does that better than me, like multitasking. Oh my God. So, but my point is that competition last night would seem to have favored men, if you want to think of it that way, and certainly Angela and Lisa just totally floundered at it, whereas Tucker just ripped through it. But it also could just be that Angela and Lisa just suck at that kind of a game, right? So you can never make competitions completely equitable for everybody, because even the ones that involve memory, right? That's an advantage to certain people. I would not be very good at some of those things, right? So it is what it is. They do the best they can. The fact that this competition being a super physical one, if that's what it was, is the first one to come up so far this year. That's pretty, that's a lot different than previous seasons. So it is what it is. Cedric is the head of household. Angela and Kenny are definitely going up on the block, and then the question becomes, who is the third nominee? And the names being tossed around sound like the names I saw bantered about were, like I said, McKenzie, or MJ is what a lot of people call her too. MJ, and then Cedric asked Joseph if he wanted to do it, and Joseph was very adamant that no, he does not want to be the third nominee. They think of this as the pawn, but as I mentioned earlier, pawn is not necessarily a good thing, because pawn may mean that you're the last option when the other things get played, right? So Joseph was like, I don't want to be the third nominee, because I'm suddenly become the easy third nominee. I don't want to start that process. So he really pushed back against it to Cedric, and it sounds like, from what I saw, that's not going to happen, that Cedric isn't going to put up Joseph. He then was debating between Leah and Rabina. Again, Leah and remember, the three people that voted to keep Matt the first week were Leah, Lisa, and McKenzie. So McKenzie and Leah were both kind of seen as outliers, even though they're kind of getting along and they're kind of hanging out with us, Chelsea a lot this past week. But they are still not, in tight with some of the other house guests. So Cedric is considering Leah. He's also considering I don't think McKenzie is still necessarily somebody he's considering, but let's not say totally no. And then the last one would be Leah, McKenzie. I mentioned, Rabina. He tossed out Rabina as a possible nominee, which that's interesting. It shows Cedric's relationship with Rabina, which isn't as tight, obviously, as with some of the other house guests. So I was kind of surprised to see Rabina's name tossed out there. I would expect Leah to be nominated, although Leah was also, I guess, tossing up Cam's name as a possibility. Well, I don't think Cedric's going to nominate Cam. Just like I don't think he's going to nominate Joseph. I don't think he's going to put another guy. I would think he's not going to put another guy up there. That's my guess. My guess is that Cedric will not put up two men and a woman. I think he'll put up two women and a man. So I'm thinking it's going to be Leah, possibly MJ, and maybe Rabina. One of those three. That's why I said I'll probably do another one later today when I have a better feel for this, or maybe when nominations have already happened. So that's kind of where we stand, right? As I said, I think yesterday, I think alliances are really going to flesh out over this weekend. I think we'll get a much better sense, especially now when Cedric is going to have to draw a line in the sand by taking someone that has not previously been nominated and talk them into being a pawn, which will cause a rift. And now that as I'm saying this, even though I said, MJ didn't seem to be at the top of the list, I wonder if production might push to have MJ nominated. If for no other reason, to force her to use her power so they can force that power to happen. They might kind of put a bug in Cedric's ear and get him to really consider using or nominating MJ. She'll use the power. He'll know that she'll get to save herself, and America will choose the renom, and it'll be the no blood on my hands kind of a thing with Cedric. It's like, oh no, I didn't pick that person, America did, which will, give an indication to the house guests on who America doesn't like. In which case, I don't know. I do not know who America would choose as the renom. Now, what would be interesting, and they won't do it, by the way, is let's walk down this rabbit hole for a half a second. Let's pretend that MJ does get nominated and she uses her power, her POV power, which is interesting. Is that in addition to the regular power of veto? I don't even know. I do not even know. Would there be 2 power vetoes? I guess that's what they think. They think that would be an extra power veto. So, never mind. I mean, yeah, Cedric might have to do a renom as well. I'll explore that more and get back with you. But let's pretend that this is the only power veto that gets played this week. It won't be, but first of all, it's probably not going to happen, but let's pretend it does. The question is, America gets to pick the renom, right? There's 2 ways to do these votes, and I've talked about this before. It's been discussed. There is the way that it's always been done, which is you vote for the person that you want to be renominated. But if CBS would get smart, they would do a vote to save. Who don't you want to be the renom? Vote for the person you want to save. That is, they kind of did it way back when in Big Brother 15, I guess, with Alyssa, where they switched the way the voting was done, and you were voting for, after voting for HoH for 2 seasons, and they said vote for the nom, and it turned out to be Alyssa got nominated because people think, the thought is that people were confused, and they'd been so trained that this is how you vote, that they just went and voted without realizing it. But it isn't really the same. It still was a popularity poll. Person gets the most votes. The difference on the voting to save is that you're voting for the person that you feel the most emotional attachment to, and the people that are boring, that you don't have much attachment to, they're the ones that end up getting nominated, right? And in that case, well, the problem with that is that the American viewer doesn't know half these house guests right now, right? They don't know Cedric very well. They don't know Rubina very well. There's people that they have not seen hardly on their TV, Leah, and so they're very unlikely to vote to save that person because they haven't seen him. And the truth is, the TV viewer probably has more votes than the online viewers that are savvier and know what's going on. So yeah, that wouldn't work. So all right, never mind. Forget I said that. We'll just carry on, and it's not going to happen anyways because they won't change it up. But that is the problem with this with the vote to save for the TV, is that the TV audience isn't very knowledgeable, and there's so many house guests in the house right now that it's hard for people to know all of them. So someone who hasn't been on TV much would be the one that would get tossed up there. All right, let's pull ourselves out of this rabbit hole and wrap this up for this morning. Just know that, yeah, Cedric's got got something going on here. I did mention that there's no have-nots this week, so yeah, there's that. MJ is unhappy because she's having to sleep next to Angela, I think. Yeah, it is what it is. I think Angela may snore, possibly. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I just threw that out there. Don't hold me to it. I'll try to check that out as well. So we'll check out some of these. We'll do some fact-checking, and I'll follow up with you guys. Again, probably later today. And I apologize for this one being a bit long and rambling, but that's the way it goes. Thank you for your support. Thank you to my patrons. Thank you to those of you that listen to the commercials at the end of this. Share this with your friends that you think won't roll their eyes at you for listening to some goofball talk about Big Brother for 20 minutes. And we will talk to you guys, later today. Yes, we will. I promise you. It may be a short one, but I will talk to you at some point later today. Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for listening.